Call the February 11th, 2020 meeting of the Acton Finance Committee to order. We are meeting this evening tonight from ActonTV Studios at 16 Craig Road. The meeting is being recorded. Anybody who is recording the meeting at this time should make themselves known to the chair. Hearing none, we'll move forward. First agenda item is public participation. Seeing nobody from the public, we will not be having any public participation this evening. So I'm going to turn it over first to our town manager, who asked to go first this evening, due to he has other commitments that he has to go to for the town, in which we appreciate him coming to our meeting this evening. It's all yours, John.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Hi,
I
John
don't think you're on.
Manzarati.
You know,
I don't
they,
think
they
that's
said,
on.
they said they're all live.
It's
Oh.
for the viewing audience, I
Okay.
believe.
We can hear you.
So I talked to the chair, Roland, the chair, about coming to talk to you about a few things tonight. One is the tax incentive program. Last September, I gave a presentation on the tax incentive programs that we used for AES, which is Advanced Environmental Systems, and Insulet, two of our bigger employers that came to town recently. So we've distributed a handout, and I'll go through that quickly. And the other item I wanted to go through quickly with the Finance Committee is we have before you a draft article list, and just wanted to show that to you and get in a position where I can come back with members of staff or other folks to speak to these articles to make sure that if you have questions about the articles, even if they're not in final form, if you have questions or if there's information we can share with you, that we'd like to do that as soon as possible, as soon as your next meeting, if you want to do that. So,
That'd be great.
just to get to the tax presentation first. So, Advanced Environmental Systems was formerly an AIR. They received through the Board of Selectmen a special tax assessment in November of 2015. It was a 5-year incentive worth approximately $126,000. And they invested substantially in the building, $3.1 million, and brought in some employees and added 65 new employees. What they build is they build test chambers. They are environments where batteries and similar components are tested, through all types of rigorous temperature fluctuations and pressure and all kinds of things. And so they do a lot of work with companies that use batteries, which is a lot of devices these days have batteries. So they're doing pretty well. They bought the entire building and they weren't using the second floor, so they actually leased it to the CASE Collaborative, which is the regional transportation group that provides special ed transportation for Concord, Acton, Sudbury, and a few other communities. And so their headquarters are there. Some of their van drivers work out of there. Also, upstairs, they leased space to Colebrook High School, which is a public school, and they have several students that work up that go to school up there every day. The school used to be located on the AB campus a few years ago, and it was relocated here. They are a very active participant in some of the things that we're trying to do in economic development on the manufacturing front, and trying to get workforce development going with other regional partners. The owner lives in town, and he's very engaged in the community. And I actually saw him just the other day, and he's really excited about being here and the opportunity that this program provided for him to move his business here. And he says he's here for the long run. And it's a good business with some good jobs, so we're excited that he's here. They also did a huge solar project on the roof, which he was very excited to tell me about again, that saves them significantly on their electricity costs. So that was a special tax assessment. The second program that our community did in the last few years is a TIF. In 2017, the town meeting approved a TIF for Insulet to move their global headquarters from Billerica and other places to Acton. It was a 20-year program which provided for an incremental or a savings on the incremental cost of the investment that they made in the property over 20 years, and it ramps up every 5 years, where they'll be paying slightly more taxes over the next 20 years. until they're paying the full amount. They invested over $200 million in that facility. When it was first envisioned, it was to be a big facility, and now it's even bigger, and they have a big parking garage that I believe they just completed out there as well. So they made a substantial investment in the community. They were to bring in 1,000 jobs, 250 of those manufacturing, and we get a report on that every year. We haven't gotten the report. It's due in February, so we'll get that later this month to see see if they've hit their targets for the year. But they appear to be doing well, and the business is really doing well. And if you haven't been out there, we had a big grand opening there in May. The governor was there, and a lot of other folks were there in town. It was very exciting to see such a big business successfully operating here in Acton. So that's kind of the overview, and if there's any questions, I'm happy to work through them with any of you.
Tom.
I wasn't on the committee for when either of these were approved, so I guess I'm trying to understand the financial incentive to the town for doing this. On the one hand, we're foregoing tax revenue for 5 years, or 20 years in the case of Insula. What do we get in return? I know there are jobs, but those are not for Acton residents exclusively. I'm just trying to understand.
Well, generally, and I wasn't here at the time, but I know at least in the case of Insulet, you're competing with other communities across the country where they may want to locate that business. And so the incentive is a way to get them to choose this community, and their investment, the $200 million investment they've made in our community in North Acton, has provided a boost to certainly to the shops in that plaza. And we don't know how many people from Acton work there, but I would assume there are some folks from Acton that work there. With the other program, it's a similar thing where I think we're trying to find clean businesses that do work that we think people in the area are looking for jobs in, and these two companies in particular fit that bill. It's advanced manufacturing. It's a good business, generally mostly quiet, to have in our community with high-paying jobs or good-paying jobs. And so I think that was part of the reasons that the policy makers decided to pursue these incentive programs.
Yeah, I'm not second guessing it. It's just, I mean, the reason you want these is for the commercial tax, property tax base, I would assume, and we're foregoing that at least for 5 years or up to 20 years. So I'll be around for the next one.
Well, the one thing I have to say is both these buildings were vacant, and especially the Insulet one was vacant for 11 or 13 years. So there was, how many years?
Yeah, that building probably sat vacant for close to 15 years. And one thing I just want to clarify too, Tom, is we are getting taxes on the building. So at the time of acquisition, when they struck this deal, whatever tax structure was in place will continue, and then in 5 years, it'll be elevated. So, and stepped up every 5 years. So we are receiving revenue currently from that facility.
Okay.
It's just a savings on the incremental revenue.
Jason?
To be clear, the special tax assessment is a giveaway, whereas the incremental financing, as you just explained, does mean that we get paid the same amount of money in the beginning. We give them the incentive not to get upcharged immediately for making positive changes to their building.
Correct.
So I said at the time, and I'm going to say it again, and I don't see myself changing very quickly on this one. I think special tax assessments are not in the town's best interest, and I wish we would avoid them. I don't have a problem with tax increment financing, especially if it's laddered the way that it was. We're already getting the money that we would have gotten if it had laid fallow. Even when it was sitting unused, it was still owned by someone. We were still getting tax payments on it. So these two vehicles, I think, are very different and should not be lumped together. I think one is positive and one is a negative. And so having said that, I do ask the question, why are you coming to us to review this? Do you have a couple of these in the pipeline? Why is this being revisited at this time?
No, as I mentioned at the beginning, I gave this exact presentation almost a year ago, and I was happy to let that be my presentation, but I was asked to come back and do it again. So I'm here
Anybody else?
to help answer any questions.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
I asked the town manager to come because we do have a lot of new people on the committee.
Okay. I'm just paranoid, and therefore I ask the question.
Steve?
Yeah, so for all you new people, you know how Jason voted on these. Insulet, I'm pretty sure is very close to 1,000 employees. So I know somebody who sits on their facilities management group, and since I'm on the board of the sewer system that services them, I can tell you that there's a lot of flushing going on up there. So I would say they are very, very close to their goal.
On the ground investigative reporting on that one.
Sahana, any questions? Mike?
Yeah, it's just,
Do you know where Crossroads Cafe is?
I don't necessarily agree with Jason. Some of these incentives are good. Anything that would bring jobs to Acton, if we could, hold out a carrot to some of these companies to create some jobs, is a good thing. This has to be the right deal. The Insulet TIF was worked out quite well. However, the AES deal, not so well. I think the first 4 out of the 5 years of the plan, no jobs were created, which was the whole purpose of the incentive. And the other thing, shame on us, because we really weren't monitoring the performance of that tax incentive. We should have been checking with them annually. We are now, but we weren't then. And so by the time we I think discovered that AES was not really in compliance. It was, you're into year 5 of the 5-year incentive, and our benefit was not much. Although they did make structural improvements to the facility and all that, but that was not the purpose of our tax incentive. So we just, there probably won't be another one like this, at least not a deal like this in the future, but hopefully more like the Insulet proposal should work out more favorably. Just my opinion.
Adam?
No comment.
Adam is our newest member, by the way. He's an associate member, so we hope. Christine?
I'm good.
Dave?
You mentioned Insulet should report out in this month sometime, their employees. It'd be interesting just to find out how many are Acton residents. And when we talked about this initially, I tend to agree with Jason's assessment that, there was property doing nothing, and the way that it was structured seemed relatively fair. I mean, not really much of a loser for the town money-wise. But I also thought there could be some added benefit of some small percentage of those jobs being created in Acton and being supportive of the real estate in North Acton. It'd just be interesting to hear if you have a conversation with them about it, unless they just file a report. But if there's 1,000 people there and 20 live in Acton, or 50, I mean, that could be somewhat meaningful. I mean, it could be 20 households or 50 households or what have you. But thanks for the update otherwise.
Al?
The commercial tax rate mentions the same as residential, yes?
Yes.
And that's intended to stay that way for the duration, or is that something that's reassessed on an annual basis?
The board sets Board of Selectmen set the tax rate every year, but it's been the same
20
For
years.
for at least 20 years.
It is reassessed, but it's never changed.
And what do surrounding towns do? What do surrounding
I
towns
think
do?
most of them are the same.
Are the same?
I can tell you Worcester had a separate tax rate for businesses that drove out. Most of the businesses that got it up to as high as $35 a thousand.
Well, I mean,
You know,
that's always going to be the case
Yeah.
at a certain inflection point.
so
Thank you.
But I didn't know if that's something that we ever reassess or consider.
It was in the past, but I think at this point, the status quo has been a uniform rate. I don't think there's any appetite right now to shift the rate to the commercial sector, especially when we're having the amount of vacancies that we're experiencing right now, especially in the retail sector. So I don't think there's any appetite for it.
We're about 12%, 11 to 12% is commercial, and so I think we're hoping that that stays that way or gets increases. And that's a lot of the economic development activities that we're involved with and the economic development committees involved with are meant to try to increase that mix. And so investments like this help with that.
Sure.
Great, thank you, John.
Okay.
And you want to discuss the, we'll look over the draft of the warrant article.
Yeah, so thank you. So leading up to the budget process this year, there was a lot of discussion about can we get a look at these articles before they're finalized, and so this is our attempt to be responsive to that request. So in the stapled packet we have what we refer to as the big calendar. It kind of lays out all the different meetings and public hearings and things like that that are coming up that lead up to town meeting taking place on April 6th. And the next page is a draft list of the titles of all the articles that we're working on right now. This list will change. There are a few things that changed today, and there may be things that are taken off this list or potentially added on this list depending on the Board of Selectmen and other decisions that are made. But if there are items on here, also included in this packet is draft articles. So we have draft articles for some of the standard ones you see every year, but we've also made an effort to include the draft articles for the revolving, or the enterprise budgets and the revolvings, so that you have a chance to take a look at those earlier and formulate any questions or comments that you have on these. And we can give a presentation on them as soon as the next meeting if you'd like us to. Or and some other articles.
That's on the revolving funds?
Yeah, we could do enterprise funds, we could do revolving funds, we could start with that. There's also several articles that are bylaw changes or items that I can tell you about briefly right now, if you want me to just run down the list.
Sure.
Okay, I'll go quickly. So one is officers, 2 is the operating budget, 3 is the borrowing and the land acquisition for the Kelly's Corner right-of-ways. That is the process that we've started many years ago, and this article will be asking the voters to authorize the selectmen to purchase the easements and authorize the borrowing to fund those purchases. The appraisal process started this fall, and we expect it to be completed this month, so we'll have that information in time for town meeting. The next article is a borrowing for sidewalks to increase the investments that we're making in sidewalks. Our borrowing will be used to add more in the first year to go after some of the shovel-ready portions of other high-priority sidewalks throughout town. The next item is a free cash appropriation article. These are all the articles. These are all the projects that were listed in the capital plan as appropriations from free cash, as revised at the last Finance Committee meeting where I presented the updated capital plans. And then the next item is a school budget and the Minuteman budget, the Community Preservation Committee. Number 9 is solar power purchase agreement. We are working on adding solar to the roof of the new fire station, and the mechanism that we're looking to use would require us to lease the roof space for 30 years, which requires town meeting authorization.
Quick question on that one. Would it be more beneficial for us to buy the panels outright?
It may be, but we want to make sure that this is on town meeting, so we don't miss the chance to have it if we decide to go this route.
Okay.
We'll certainly continue to look at that. The next item is we currently right now have an RFP out to see if anybody wants to buy the 3 School Street old firehouse, and if there's a proposal that we want to move forward on, it would require town meeting authorization to actually sell the property. The next item is the parking lot that we bought last year at 19 and 21 Maple Street. If the town intends to use those buildings or any of that space for anything else through leasing it, this article would authorize us to do that. The next item would authorize us to use the proceeds from any lease to help pay off the debt incurred to buy the property. And that's actually would require a home rule petition because it's not provided for under regular municipal finance. The next is to fund collective bargaining agreements if we can reach an agreement. Then transfers, rescind some old borrowing articles. The firefighter relief trust fund, there's some proposed changes to how that's run, and that's something that we can make a presentation to you on this winter. Then the rest of them are just regular ones that I've already mentioned, enterprise budgets. If you go to the next day, number 25, that's changing the Board of Selectmen to Select Board. That would require a town meeting vote and then a subsequent town meeting election, a town election vote. So even if town meeting votes to approve this in April, we would have to wait for the following March election for it to be in effect. And the rest are zoning articles for which I have to go attend a public hearing for in a few minutes, including one to require electric vehicle parking stations as part of new projects. Number 29, we were considering bringing forward a polystyrene ban, similar to the plastic bag ban that was passed last year. I believe that this isn't going to be ready. This is an example of something that will probably be taken off because there's a lot of work that goes into that. The next item is related to one-day liquor licenses. There was a rule passed in the 60s or 70s prohibiting alcohol from the town common, and this is just clarifying how that's implemented. Another one, 32 would allow us to change the town-wide speed limit.
Which way are we going?
That's a policy decision. So the next one's interesting. Number 33.
Can I just back up 1 second, John?
Yes.
So on that one, is that similar to what Concord did, where they have a town-wide speed limit of 25 unless otherwise stated?
Yes. So this accepting this legislation would allow us to do that.
Okay.
It wouldn't set it at. I don't think the town meeting vote would set it at a certain speed limit. This would just give us the ability to set it at a speed limit.
Okay.
But we can make a presentation on that too.
Yeah, I think that you can do that, but I just think it has to be enforced. That's the big part.
I agree. So the next one's interesting. Number 33, it's accept legislation regarding Saturday office hours. This comes into play, especially this year with all the town meetings that we had to hold and the voter registration deadlines. We're required by law to stay open until 8 p.m. on the last day for voter registration. And if that falls on a Sunday, we can just have it be Monday. What if it falls on a Saturday? We have to open town hall on a Saturday until 8 p.m. to allow for voter registration. And we've done it, and nobody comes. And so we're spending money to have our town clerk's office open all day. So what this does is it treats, if we accept this, Saturday will be treated like a Sunday. So if the day falls on a Saturday, it'll be moved to Monday. Other items with zoning, sidewalk easement related to a Board of Selectmen discussion earlier this year about changing the way the intersection of Strawberry Hill Road looks. Accepting a trail easement, and then a lot of standard consent items. So it's shaping up to be a great town meeting. And we look forward to presenting to you information so you can spend time thinking about it and deliberating about it leading up to town meeting.
Great, thank you.
And if you were to let me know who to reach out to from the Finance Committee on these things, we can get that process started too.
On these articles,
Mr. Chairman, what night do you plan on carving up who speaks to what? Is that tonight or next
we
week?
can do it tonight, or we can do it next week. It's
Your call.
take it what the committee feels. Any thought on that?
Might as well do it.
We'll do it tonight.
I'll take number 24.
Well, we won't. We'll do that. We'll do that.
It's still an associate.
Fair enough.
Mr. Chair,
That's one more thing.
Yes, go ahead.
if that was sort of the town meeting presentation, I know you have a budget hearing tonight, or you're scheduled to talk about the budget.
Yep.
I just wanted to take a second and announce that's something that I'm really proud of, that the organization's been working very hard this year, over the last 16 months, to seek grants to help offset our expenses and to help leverage resources out there to do things with money that we wouldn't have otherwise. And we counted it up today, and it's $1.2 million in the last 16 months for various things to help with public safety, conservation, energy efficiency, housing, planning, really something that I'm very excited about, and I can distribute this list, and I'll certainly be publishing it, because it's something that I'm really proud of.
That's great.
And so I just want to thank the staff for all the work that they're doing to allow us to do more with the tax dollars that we get locally by leveraging over $1 million from state and federal funds.
I think that's great.
Awesome.
I appreciate that.
Thanks.
Yeah, if we could have that, that'd be.
Yeah, I gotta fix one thing on it, but I'll leave it out there.
All right, great. Appreciate that, John.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
We have 2 meetings after this before the warrant is posted.
We'll take that up in the new business, and we'll have to add a meeting at some point.
Yep.
No question about that. Okay, so now we're gonna go back to the budget hearing, which I will read this lovely document.
Just the one John sent you?
I didn't see that.
You sent the one to it. This is. Bless you. John sent this on the 28th.
So what do I do with this?
It's a budget transfer to the selectmen, when you forward it to
Thank you, Brian.
Do I have to read that as well?
I don't think so.
No.
Except the numbers in
Steve?
Don't have to read it.
Okay.
there.
So,
I just wanna make sure we have the right numbers.
Thank you.
thank you.
This is merely complying with one of these things in the timeline. I believe the town charter requires that they submit it to us 60 days before town meeting.
This is before our discussion last week.
So now we're gonna have our budget hearing for FY '21. Proposed budget for fiscal year 2021 is at $105,634,457, which is an increase of $9,783,662 over the FY 2020 budget. The town budget is $36,915,202. Acton Bucksborough Regional School District, $63,106,272. Minuteman Tech, $1,397,557. Difference for the town is $1,053,633, or 2.94%. The regional school district difference is $1,871,018 at 3.1%. Minuteman Tech, $233,611, which is 19.05%, for a total of $7,081,983, 7.2% increase. Town operating budget, as I said, is up $2,819,180, or 1,053,633, or 2.944%, including the estimated debt for the North Acton Fire Station building projects for debts already incurred. Capital increases, sorry, get that, bringing the total increase of the town budget as stated above. The town operating budget for the Acton Boxborough Regional School District increase of 3.1% after accounting for the school district's revenue reserve use of $1.1 million, offsetting the total budget increase. The cost shifts per the regional agreement. Acton assessment increased by $1,255,647, or 2.1%. I think that's 3.1%. Minuteman assessment increase of 19.05%. The increased assessment is due to an increase in the operating cost relative to the debt on the new school building, of which $102,156 of debt service is attributable to Acton for FY '21. Additional debt for the demolition and building of the school fields has not been incurred as of this time. The increase in budgets will be met by revenue changes, Proposition 2.5 of $2,463,061, increased local receipts of $154,450, increased state aid of $22,000, and decrease of reserve use of 336,157. Proposition 2.5 allows for the increase of the tax levy by 2.5% per year. In some past years, Acton has increased taxes less than the allowed 2.5%. That is not the case currently. In total, taxes could have been raised by more than they were in prior years when we did not tax that full levy capacity. New growth is the value of new building not previously included on the tax rolls for a given year. Local receipts include excise taxes, permits, and other fees. As a result, the average single-family tax bill will increase by 3.78% from $11,790 in FY20 to $12,758 in FY21, or an average of $968 on the average single-family tax assessment.
Percent didn't sound right.
Sorry, the average tax increase will be 8.21%, not 3.78. I apologize. Any comments from the committee? Public?
At the ALG meeting, I asked how the Kelly's Corner purchase of parcels will be financed, and John, you were there. John answered it's in the municipal budget. You didn't elaborate. I realized it may be bonded, but I still don't know what the amounts are for next year, for how many years it'll be bonded, how it affects it. It should be a separate item on the spreadsheet because it's not a permanent yearly budget increase. Do you have those numbers?
I don't, Sean?
No, it was, I don't
Wanna
know
use
the
the microphone?
specific numbers, but the warrant article, I think it's warrant article 3 for the Kelly's Corner land acquisitions, is a separate article that will be bonded. The anticipated cost is probably $1.3 to $1.5 million. We're just waiting for the remaining appraisals to come in, and that will be paid for out of the operating budget. Over, I would imagine 30 years, it will be rolled into one of the borrowings we're going to be doing.
So are you saying that the total cost for the land acquisition is 1.3 million, or the amount that we're going to pay in the first year of the borrow?
No, that would be over the 30 years, 1.3 to 1.5.
Total cost, 1.3.
Total cost.
We don't have the real number.
Okay, and we're not going to get the real number by the next meeting, right? Because it's going to come in this month, right?
Yes,
Okay. Do we have any idea what the real number is?
they won't say.
No,
We're meeting
no,
again
don't
at
say it
6:11.
that way. That's not fair. It's a series of their strip parcels that are being taken to widen the road. They don't have any impact on the property owner. They've been coming in, from what I understand, pretty much every day, and we should have. You're meeting again at the end of the month?
Meeting in 2 weeks, right?
I think that should pretty much all be in by then.
How does something like that go about being assessed in terms of value and how much is paid?
Well, it's two appraisals. There's an appraisal John Avery does. We've retained him, and then there's a review appraisal. That's what the law requires, and it's the review appraiser that's the final number.
And who vets that?
A separate individual.
Okay.
So what you're saying is whatever the number is, it's going to be bonded, so it will require a 2/3 vote, and it's the debt service will be carried within the town budget. It's not going to be a debt exclusion.
That's correct.
Okay.
Thank you, John.
Can I add something to that?
Sure.
Just as a general comment, expenses which are not permanent forever should not be part.
Charlie, can you go to the?
Do you mind? You can even, if you want, I can give this to you because it's wireless.
That's right, it's not. We want the people at home.
It should be
It's on.
It's just on. It's on.
Does-
Is that on?
Yeah.
expenses which are not permanent, debt exclusion amounts and so forth, should not be part of the yearly budget, because as they expire, that amount of money sort of stays in the budget. There was a time many years ago when we had a separate article at town meeting to vote the amounts for these debt exclusion, principal and interest payments with, no discussion, housekeeping. I think that's a good idea. That's not up to this committee to decide, but you could contribute an opinion. And this Kelly's Corner thing is a fine example. We still don't know it. For 30 years, even if it's 1.3 million, it's around $100,000 a year at 2.5%, whatever rate may be. So, it's not a large amount of money, but that plus the debt exclusion for the schools, for the fire station and so forth, and the existing ones distort the yearly municipal budget. And if I can change subjects very briefly for a few seconds, back to your discussion on the tax breaks. One nice thing about businesses, that's part of the consideration, they don't send kids to school. And one more quick comment to your question about different tax rates. We tried that once. Since, as John said, the amount of property tax for commercial industrial is 11–12%, even a large increase in the commercial tax rate has insignificant impact on yours and mine. Property tax ain't worth doing. Thank you.
Thank you, Charlie. All good points.
So I just want to say that in concept, I absolutely agree that this should not be part of the operating budget. But the only thing that I wonder is if it is to be bonded, is it possible that we are saving money by not having it be bonded separately? If we're bonding a bunch of things in the aggregate and there's a fixed cost to approaching the market, is the intent of doing this, is there a savings involved?
You want to attempt to answer that?
I know you brought this up before, Al, in the past, and we said, wow, that's probably not a bad thing to look into. We have not done that, but if we have a bunch of items that we're borrowing, and for instance, we are this year, so I'm sure in the aggregate, there'll be some savings there, but instead of piecemealing it. So, if you recall, we've banned a few different items over the last couple of years. We're gonna be rolling those bans, so bond anticipation notes, which is one time, year over year. We're gonna be rolling into our permanent borrowing, so along with the North Acton Fire Station of $9.2 million, we have another, I think, $4.8 million we're gonna be bundling and putting it out in the streets collectively all together. So, without not knowing what that looks like individually versus collectively, in the rate we receive, I don't know. We were looking at some bond, what they call re-offerings today, because we're ready to get, to start putting our numbers together at North Acton Fire and putting us out on the street. It seems like you're competing with other people on the same day, depending on whether you're AAA or AA bond rating. So to isolate it and to say that this is specifically, you're getting more bang for your buck by bundling it, there's so many other variables that play into it.
Right.
It's very complex. So, I don't know if we could ever come up with a definitive answer and saying absolutely, or, I don't know if we could do that.
But to the gentleman's point, why is the Kelly's Corner infrastructure land acquisition going to be put into the operating budget? Or the debt service on going to be put into the operating budget?
Charlie's brought this up before in the past, so think about this. So if town meeting authorized these bonds and we get approval for it, there's a lot of risk in isolating a separate standalone article up to subsequent town meetings. One subsequent town meeting, that article fails. We're obligated to pay that bond.
Okay,
So that's gonna create a significant problem for the budget.
right.
And so there's a lot of concern about isolating that. That's why it's put into the operation as part of the whole package deal.
I didn't follow that, Brian. Can you try again? The last part about the reintroduce it, and, the part where you had to do additional warrant articles in future
So,
budgets.
so in this particular case, what Charlie was saying is to isolate the debt service payments in a subsequent town meeting article. So we go to town meeting and we have an operating budget of X. Typically, we have it sitting in the finance director's budget, the debt service payments in his budget, because we're obligated. We put bonds out in the street now, we have to pay those back on an annual basis based on the bond schedule. If we put that in a separate article at town meeting, and that article fails,
Okay.
how are we gonna fund it?
What I had understood, and I thought we were talking about right now, is Charlie was asking why this was not a debt exclusion. Effectively. No.
Am I getting it right, Charlie, what you were saying, or?
Well,
That was how I interpreted it as well, the question.
if it's a debt exclusion, it's not part of the operating budget, correct?
It still is. It's not gonna be a standalone. Once it gets approved, it's not a standalone
I'm
article
sorry,
of
it is
subsequent
not
meeting.
part of the 2.5%
Correct. That
part
is
of
correct.
the operating budget. It's really not.
Yes.
Well, right now it is part of the
Yes, but it wouldn't be if it was a debt exclusion, correct?
But it's not being proposed as that exclusion, it's just being proposed as part of the backup. The vote to approve it has to be 2/3, so this one time only will be a separate article at this town meeting, right? Because it's a
That's
2/3 vote. Operating budget is majority. Following years, it'll just be buried in the operating budget. And that's what I don't like.
But we can't revisit it. We can't go back and say, just because we approved it, we approved it in 2020, we can't say 5 years later, we don't want to pay that debt now.
Oh, I'm not, let me answer it differently. Brian just said, well, what if the article fails? Right now, principal and interest payments on long-term bonds, which are in the operating budget, there is no provision that those will be paid as a first priority. The operating budget is one number. It can be spent any way you want. This is kind of unlikely, but suppose the town had, shortage of funds to pay salaries and decided not to pay some bond issue. Nothing to prevent that. It would actually be, in my opinion, a more direct assurance to the bond rating agencies if we had a separate article which got voted at town meeting. Those funds would be dedicated to that payment, but that's a long-term discussion.
I don't feel the need to have it be a separate article at town meeting. I think that's dangerous because that allows people the premise that they could decide not to pay a debt already incurred. I would not be against it being against there being greater transparency and having it be called out in the budget more explicitly, as this is the principal and interest, and these are all of the entities that contribute to the principal and interest payment. I think that level of transparency is perfectly welcome and something we should absolutely ask the town to do. But having it as a separate article is absolutely not I'm absolutely not in favor of that, because I don't want people to think they even have the shred of a chance of believing that they could squelch out of their obligations 3, 4, 5, 13, 20 years into a 30-year obligation.
Well, I think what Charlie's saying is we need to, show the budget with, 3 subtotals, if you will. The true operating costs, the inside debt, and the outside debt.
I'm fine with that.
And the inside debt, yeah, it's always something there, but some of it will age out over time. If it's just lumped together with the rest of the operating expenses, then, when you look at year-over-year increases, it kind of gives you a little wind at your back. But then again, some years it hurts you.
I don't want to, spend the rest of your meeting on this, but I think it's something you might want to consider. Nothing more than having a spreadsheet, yours or the ALG should be the same, that shows this in detail, would be a step in the right direction.
Not against that.
Thank you. Right, so now we're gonna go through our budget discussions, and we could at this time, if everybody would like, we could start assigning warrant articles. Maybe we should start getting a new guy. I think he needs to get some of the tough ones. Go ahead.
I like Dal's number 24. That's good.
Already claimed.
Steve.
Before we get too deeply into budget discussions, could you or Christie give us an update on ALG's deliberations?
You want to kick it off, or?
We came down to a $65,000-ish gap between, deficit between the schools and the town and what was needed. So we discussed for a long time, a lot of which was my displeasure, about the amount of E&D used on the school side in order to get the budget to balance well for us. They're using up close to 1.1 million, or maybe a little above that, to get here. They have stated that they'll be happy to get $500K back into E&D at the end of the year.
You mean turnbacks?
Yeah.
Correct.
So we need to have a discussion ourselves about what to do next year. They currently in the model have a 4.4% budget increase predicted for next year. That's just in the ALG model, so we need to keep an eye on what's happening there. And
Where would that put E&D if they assume they spend 1.1 and they get 500 back?
I think it
It's a
was
net loss of
3.5%.
600. That's 3.5. That's below their own
Yep.
recommendation.
Yep.
That is below their own target.
And that was stated.
But the other, with Budget Saturday, Dave wasn't all that bullish on getting anything back
But
on turnbacks. So
Peter and Dave
now we've
said-
changed our tune.
Were they the ones who found some money?
I think they found some money in some other areas. I don't remember them talking about turnback specifically. We did say that the rate of increase cannot keep on going the way it is. It's just not sustainable, especially under Prop 2.5. Salary fringes, et cetera.
The teachers' union, the 3-year contract's up this year, right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
they're
correct.
negotiating,
They're
and they
negotiating
don't
right
have
now.
final details yet.
Do you want to make a comment, Ty? Mr. Mike.
So, budget subcommittee met this morning, and we do expect a turn back of $500,000 to $700,000. But we are, the bonding committee has met and is discussing taking the entire amount of the bonds of $75 million all at once, and then investing that, so the interest on that would be a source that we may find ends up in E&D over time. This is all a preliminary discussion. No decisions have been made. And so I just want to pass that along to you. We are concerned. We have been tightening our budget variances successfully.
So that's a discussion that still needs to be had about what we're going to do about that, but we're in for a couple of very, very tight years.
At the end of all that, we agreed to give the 65,000 plus in reserves to,
Out of reserves.
out of
Okay.
reserves to close up this year.
If I may, was there any discussion about the next 2 years on the sheet?
That is gonna be discussed at our next meeting. They wanted to get through this, and said we were concerned with the outlying years. And they would like to do a little more longer range planning on both sides, because that's part of our mandate is long range planning. And we need the town to be able to go out maybe 2 more years on this, in that model.
Well, if you go 2 more years on the volume, on the model at those rates of increase, we're gonna run out of money.
Right.
So,
So did we reach official consensus? It's done for the year?
Yes. But I did quote Steve on, we can't have salaries going up 4% every year.
thank you.
So that's just not sustainable. I said, I'd like to get a 4% raise every year. I'd be really
Yeah.
happy.
2.5 for steps and lanes, guarantee.
So the net position where we were at on December 13th was, we were 902,147 negative. And then the regional assessment was reduced by 441,894. FY 20 new growth impact of 40,000, so that also adds into increase there. Change in debt of minus 23,421, which left a net position on January 21st of negative 443,674. Then, between then and our last ALG meeting, regional school district reduction of 3.06% of 126,506. Town spending reduction to 2.94%. So the reduction was to a 3.06% increase from last year's budget. 2.94% on the town side from FY 20 to 21. State aid FY 21 cherry sheet of 22,000. Increased new growth estimate of 50,000. Increased local receipt estimate of 100,000. Decreased overlay estimate of 50,000. And I have a change in Minuteman debt exclusion from 341,621 to 335,426. This is tax bill change only. And then the operating budget on Minuteman from 1,404,761 to 1,397,557. That's how we ended up, which was 7,204. So we ended up, that's how we ended up with this 65,781, which will be coming out of reserves.
Do you want to talk about the Minuteman?
Yeah, so Mike has informed me that Minuteman will be at our next meeting. There's a lot of information there on Minuteman. They did meet with ALG the other night where I was late. I just not realizing that we had an ALG meeting until the very last minute. What do you, I'll let you kick that off.
They came and presented about the budget, why it's up so much. Short version is, when they put in a new building, it ends up they needed some new supplies to go along with all the nice new stuff. So there was a significant bump in their operating budget, and that's not expected to continue. They also, because of the redesign of everything, had to hire some new staff. That will also not necessarily continue. So there'll be a few years of things leveling out, but we shouldn't expect to continue to have this skyrocketing assessment. Apart from the fact that next year, we're gonna have a ton more students there theoretically. 40 kids from the 8th grade have applied. We currently have 32 children there. The number is kind of trailing two falls that they base our assessment on. So next year shouldn't be too bad. 2 years from now, we will most likely see a significant jump. The applications have been wonderful, and they expect in 4 years. This year they are only taking applications from member towns.
Yeah.
They have a wait list for member towns. We did learn that there is a minimum. You are guaranteed, each town is guaranteed a certain number of spots, so you can't be fully edged out. They said in 4 years they expect to have it be entirely member towns in the student population.
They also did say that there was a student from Acton that went there that has gone on to Carnegie Mellon for electrical engineering.
Wow.
So that was good. A couple of years ago, they had somebody who went there and went to MIT afterwards. And I imagine that was probably with the robotics or something. So they have high academic standards for those, in those types of programs.
It's wonderful.
So it's good to hear.
Oh, and in spite of us being told many times that the capacity for the school is, I think, Mike, it was 620. They said that they're expecting to be able to get up to 700 students in at once. Everything gets worked out.
And then the other thing was too that, as I mentioned in the budget hearing, there's still another bonding round to go for the demolition of the old building and the building of the school fields that has not gone out to the street.
Do we know when they're gonna be done bonding? Because this has been a 6-year, every year it goes up, 100 here, 200,000 there. When are they gonna be done bonding this thing? When is this building that's already been opened gonna be done being bonded?
Mike? Or is that a question for next week?
That's a question for next meeting.
Let them know I'm coming.
Well, there's still things to be done. Like the
Yeah, they're coming
building
here.
I know.
should be,
Well, go there.
the old building should be almost down by now. I know it's completely gutted. And by the spring, it'll just be a level turf there. Grass growing and so on, but no athletic fields. And the athletic fields is the next big thing. And that is currently out for bid, and it's got to be the right number, and hopefully we'll have more information in about 2 weeks.
He did say that they floated a $12 million bond that got 2.5%.
Oof. They should be able to do better than that.
So I guess what I'd like to see is, since I know it's in theory a smaller school than it was a couple of years ago in terms of students, why do we need more staff and more supplies?
Well, they have all new machinery, so it's different. They got all new stuff in, so it just needs different supplies than what they have in terms of all the
And new
manufacturing
programs.
things.
They also did say there was an increase in transportation of $149,246 for the year.
Again, why? It's a much smaller district.
I think part of that had to do with contract
And,
renegotiation.
technology increased, technology spending of 124.28. Health up 441,379.
8%.
So there's some increases there. We can flesh that out when they come in next week, 2 weeks.
Do you have the stuff in a form you can send it out?
Who's gonna send us? We can get it.
Okay. Thank you.
Like they were gonna send us this document. We get them to.
What is that?
Hey.
Oh, yes, we're gonna send this to. Is that true?
Yeah, they went to the slideshow. Yeah, they could send that. So the committee can have a chance to review it prior to the meeting. That'd be a good idea.
Voted for that school 3 years ago. They presented
Diana?
it on a price per square foot basis compared to all other like
Yeah.
I
vocational
wanted to
regional
also let
schools.
you know that the negotiation
aligned to that.
subcommittee settled with the
Yeah,
teachers
like the
union,
same sort of price
and
per
the
square foot.
school committee is voting on the new contract Thursday at the school committee meeting. We do have information in the packet about the terms, if you want to just check out the packet that's on our website. But they wanted me to pass along that information to you if you want to come to that meeting. Talk to
Thank
us
you.
about it.
That's on this Thursday?
So,
Yes.
Yeah.
When you hear from the Minuteman people,
Yeah.
the big driver in the out-year increases will be the number of AB students that will be attending Minuteman. We tried to push them on what are we looking at in terms of annual cost increases, as you could, potentially have going from 33 students to perhaps as many as probably that number to 60, 65. The driver in the 4-year rolling average is the number of students that Acton sends there. And that's a big number, both in terms of students and in the added cost. So, but be prepared with them on that, because it was hard for all of us to, get our arms around exactly what we were looking at in terms of what is it going to be in 22, 23, 24.
You can ask a question, sure.
Do we know that as Acton adds students to that school, does the cost go up on a per capita basis on a very linear basis, or does your cost decrease per capita as we add more students?
I believe it increases by the number of students you send.
Right, but does it increase linearly? Like, as an example, the AB budget of 105 million for next year is a cost of about 17,000 per student, whereas the projected Minuteman budget for the 33 students we send there is about $40,000 per student. So as we add a student to Minuteman, does that increase exactly 40,000 each student, or would it then be the next incremental student would be 39, and then the next one after that 38, and the next one after that 37?
Education is primarily a fixed cost business. Minuteman's per student cost is higher for two reasons. One, there's a much higher proportion of students that are on an ed plan at Minuteman than there are in the, say, the general AB population. And two, when you start buying CNC equipment, it's a lot more than books and
Right.
paper. So they do have a high fixed cost operation. Our costs go up, if you will, on apportionment. If we have more students enrolled next year than we had this year, we're going to get a bigger share of what's not a completely fixed cost, budget, but the budget's going to go up each year because of salary increases, healthcare increases, and things like that. But overall, it should not increase linearly with every student.
Okay. That's what I assumed, but I wasn't sure if it's right now. Okay.
So let's go over the town meeting warrant worksheet draft that we have here in front of us tonight. And start dividing those out.
I'll take Kelly's corner.
Where is it? What number is that one?
3.
And I believe the chair usually takes the town operating budget.
Yes, you can assign it. You can assign it anywhere you want.
Huh?
It's all yours.
If you want it, you can have it.
Not really, but I'll take it.
I'll help you with it.
Sounds good, but you might think this get some questions. Thanks for me. Town officers,
Skip it, no
Yeah,
one
we
takes
know.
it.
capital sidewalk program.
Interested.
It's yours.
Done.
All
I
right.
should train you better.
No,
Mark it on there or you'll forget.
I'll stick them. Well, this is an issue in our neighborhood, so simple.
Good for you. All right. Town capital, public safety, dispatch, fire alarm, town hall room 204 facilities, Fidelity Capital. I thought you were the capital person.
I thought he was the capital
think it's
person.
Yeah, I thought you were, Jason.
It was on the school side.
Yeah.
So what? Capital's capital.
I'll take it if you want. I thought you had this. I'll take it.
All right.
School district. Christine.
I got it.
Where do you see that one?
That's
6.
6.
Okay, we still
Put it
have,
on the
two-
list.
we still, so
We
does,
just did.
We just did 5.
5 is
I
just
took
a really
5,
big one.
gave Christine 6.
who's 5?
Jason.
Jason.
Jason's doing 4 and 5?
No.
No.
Oh, it's a big article.
It's
I,
big.
it's just weird how it was on this
Yeah,
thing. So who's calming the traffic? Is that Jason?
Yeah, good luck with that.
I'll take that one. I'll take the traffic calming.
Where are you looking?
No, that's all in
Where are you
article.
going?
Oh, it's all the same.
5 is just.
That's
Oh,
all
oh,
5.
okay, got it. I'm confused.
He gets
It's
the whole
age.
block.
So Christine's doing the school.
Yep. Mike's doing Minuteman.
Mike's doing Minuteman. CPC, that's usually you rolling to it, but it's your year to.
Well, it's just Tom this year.
Tom,
Tom this year.
Tom, it's all you. When are they coming to talk to us? Because I see.
Probably never.
Because I see from the list
Well,
of
if-
dates.
put it this way, if they don't
plan
come
on
in,
being done a week before.
I'm gonna
town
recommend.
meeting.
I'm gonna recommend that we don't approve the article.
Yeah, I mean, I've invited them 3 times. Their meetings are now the same as ours, and
Well,
They could hold
you could
on
tell
to
them that they better get here the next meeting, or the meeting after, or we're just not gonna approve the article.
We complained about it last year.
They did.
Well, they'll really be complaining.
I know, and they said,
They
you know,
really
invite us
want
in.
to come.
They
We
We,
invited
we,
them
we
in.
invite them in, and then they don't.
If they
Then
really
they're a
wanna
no
come,
show.
they
So
can come.
Yep.
I will then.
you can leave
Besides
it.
Tom making a motion, I will
And make 'em drink.
make another one on top of that. They will not like it.
Oh,
So Hannah's got 9.
I was gonna take that, but Sahana can do that. That's fine.
I could do 10.
Thank you.
Lease authorization.
I hear Al wants that one.
I definitely want that one.
Then the next one.
Yeah.
Done.
LV.
That would be
Home rule
interesting
petition.
ones.
That's
That
that,
would
that's
be-
Christine.
that'd be interesting.
that's 11 12 because that would be that has
Oh,
to do with
That's a
1921. So you get 2 of them right in a row.
I'll I'll take 13.
Okay.
Budget transfer.
No.
It never happens.
So, I'll take the,
So we'll give it to Roland.
I'll take the consent ones and just, we agree.
No, we
but-
need people to do the revolving funds and enterprise
Yeah,
budgets.
Yeah.
don't take
Okay.
them all. So you can take 14, not that you have to do anything on it. 15.
Comes up, I'll take 15 because I'm the only one in the committee who remembers these things.
Good.
Perfect. Since you're doing firefighters, you want us to take firefighter relief trust fund?
Sure, I don't know what it's about, but I'll take it.
You'll learn about it. Commuter lot and station maintenance, that's going to be either Dave or Al. Right, Dave, isn't that what you were taking lead on earlier?
Sure.
Septic disposal enterprise budget.
That's exciting.
Does anybody want to touch that after our last town meeting?
It stinks.
That was sewers, not septic.
I'll take that one.
I want transfer station.
Christie?
I want nothing to do with
Ambulance,
We're just skipping sewer.
ambulance enterprise fund.
I'll take it.
I did not volunteer.
You didn't. You just skipped right
Um,
over it.
Nothing to do with it.
Sewer. Okay,
20. What are you going with 20?
Maybe it'll just go
Dave's-
away.
Dave doesn't want 20. I'll take it.
Nice.
Okay, thank you. Transportation enterprise,
I can take it.
thank you.
Where's ambulance?
Revolving funds budgets,
It's probably a no up.
as what?
It's probably nothing to do.
I'll take that one then.
I just want to. Mike's only had one. I think
Way
we
to
should.
step up.
Don't forget
Yeah.
that.
One, Mike.
You're gonna have a busy second day, Mike.
Hey, Mike, you want deleted placeholder?
Al did
I already-
that one a
I already-
long time ago.
Al claimed that one
Stop
already.
trying to give it away.
That's an Al.
It's
Al
me.
took it.
Al, wait, Al, you got that one.
Great.
I have an extensive presentation. Maybe
That's pretty nice.
maybe there'll be a con.
You're doing revolving?
You should ask.
I'll
I'll
Make
do
sure
it.
you ask
Well,
if
we
there's a
got 4 people that raised their hand already on this
Oh,
one.
we'll give it to Mike.
Are we arguing over 25? Is that what's happening?
Yeah, we gave it to
We'll
Mike.
give it to Mike.
Really? All right.
32 Weatherby Street, which is residential 2, take East Acton Village 2. I don't know what the heck that does.
I'll
I
take
guess we'll
it.
find out.
I'll take it.
Usually what we've done in the past is we've done all the planning articles as one person.
The village ones are usually higher density.
I can take the 26, 27. That's fine. Electric vehicle. Are we charging people? If not, I'll take it.
I don't think
Anybody else want it? I'll take it.
Go for it.
You want, or I can take it?
I think, are we going to charge people? We are?
I don't know. We'll find
Probably
out.
not.
You're gonna have to find out.
Yeah.
Let us know.
We
Uh,
I
should.
would bet no.
I would bet
So am
no.
I taking it?
Okay, Sana, you can take it.
All right.
I'll take 29. I'll make
Yeah,
it into a
29
big
is
presentation and argue against it.
Which I think is going to be
Right up
pulled,
in paper
but
bag.
I think he said it's going
You
to be
already
cold.
you already have the presentation.
Right?
Just change
Substitute
just change
plastic
just change the
bags for
material.
polystyrene. I'm in.
Do I get to be totally stereotypical and say I'll take 30?
No, I want to know where we're going with this. Are we
Yeah.
continuing to ban them, or are we going to allow it? 'Cause
Right.
I'd be happy to argue
It says
the one, but not the other.
It says I think we're we're
It
deleting
says
the prohibition.
Delete the prohibition. Motion to recommend Article 30. I'm getting ahead of myself.
so who's taking? Steve, are you taking that?
Sure, I'll take that one.
That's great.
Amend general bylaws for non-criminal
You know,
disposition of
Paging
animal
Mike.
controls.
Paging Mike on that one.
Sure. Since I have 2 dogs.
I'm taking speed limits then. If I can't take alcohol, I'm taking speed limits.
All right. Saturday office hours, I'll take that one.
Yeah, you shouldn't take both. Saturday office hours? Who wants it?
Minor corrections, I already got that. Minor corrections for housekeeping. Personal wireless facility. It sounds like a zoning.
Zoning bylaw.
Zoning
Yeah.
But it
bylaw.
is zoning, and somehow those never seem that minor when you actually read them.
I'll take it.
I think we need to get Al, I always have you down here. as
Yeah,
a volunteer.
yeah. I mean, what do you want me to take? Everyone's jumping on this
Sidewalk
stuff.
easement.
Adam, you should
all
take
you-
35.
Yeah, Adam's gonna
Oh,
take
right.
35.
I got 35.
Oh, no, Adam just
Adam
took it.
has-
Oh,
Yeah.
Adam's taking 35.
Do you get 36, Al?
He's got a
But I
sidewalk.
know
Okay,
who to call
Al,
if
you
I
got
have any
36
questions
through
on.
44.
So Al, we'll put you on 36.
Sure.
344.
Hear and accept reports, authorize easements. Anybody excited on these?
No, these are all
They're all
boring.
the same every year, aren't they?
Yes.
they
So all
are,
the I could take 36 through 44. That's fine.
Okay, so
You take
the
them all?
Adam
the,
sent them.
the other one is the sale of foreclosed property at 26 Carlisle Road.
Oh, there's actually something there for
There's something
change.
there?
Yeah.
Oh, I'll
Okay.
look into
That's
that.
one.
Okay, that's Christine. The other ones we'll give to Al.
So which one's 36 through
Through 43?
343.
43.
43?
Nice.
Who's got 4 Kelly's Corner?
Me.
No.
Who else?
Who else would have
Yes.
No. So
Yes.
three,
Yes.
three
Kelly's
Kelly's
Corner.
Corner.
3, I'm sorry, 3.
4 is Adam.
Kelly's Corner.
it? Adam likes sidewalks.
Oh, man. We saw him coming, didn't we?
Well,
He wants to drive his his Cobra down it. So do we
so
want to?
word of caution, next time you see this list, the numbers will change.
Yes.
Yes.
So
Yeah. So
go by your title,
we,
not
we
by
will
your number.
we will revisit that again.
Yep.
So in the meantime, for next week, next meeting, look these over. I will get the list to the town manager.
May I say, Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
I
You may say.
appreciate the offer of the town manager to come out and present next week, but please make sure, can we have task Brian to give him the feedback that anything that doesn't have a number on it, he shouldn't waste his time on, because we're not gonna hear it if the numbers aren't there.
Can you bring that message back? I'm excited.
Because what I don't wanna have happen is I don't wanna have it be, well, we briefed you at the end of February, and then the numbers came in March, and why are we not prepared to speak to it the last day of March? So while I applaud, I actively applaud the proactive coming in front of us to meet with us.
Mhm.
Please make sure you have the numbers, otherwise it's a waste of time.
A number can be amended, okay?
Be
If
amended
they got a
forward.
number they wanna go with, in 2 weeks, fine. But if they change the number, we're gonna have to revote the recommendation.
Right.
Right. So you bring that message, I guess, and says, come with the numbers, and if it's you change the number, we're going to revote it. So, looking over our meeting schedule, our next meeting is on the 25th, right here in this room. We are going to need to have another 1 or 2 meetings in between. We have, our next one we have is March 10th. And since this is our heavy lifting season, and then we have March 24th. One of
But
these,
the warrant goes out on the 17th.
March goes on the 17th, so we need to have a meeting between the 25th and March 10th.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes,
could I direct a question to select person Benson?
you may.
John, what else are you guys cooking up? Is there gonna be anything added to the warrant that you know of?
It's cooked.
It's cooked, this is it?
No, I don't see anything, coming in, we just need to get the land acquisition numbers
Yeah.
firmed up, so we all
Okay.
have them. But I think that will be pretty much it.
Is the window closed on citizens petitions?
Yes, it did. That closed on, it was the last Monday in January.
Good.
You expecting any special town meeting in between now? This concerns me.
No, I'll have, in part of my report, I'll give you an update on something.
Okay, thank you. So, we have a meeting for the 25th. The warrant article closes on, what date is that, the 17th?
Goes to press on the 17th, so we have to have our recommendations in.
So should we meet March 3rd?
That is election day,
That's election day.
which
I have no
problem with, but I'm just throwing out there that
I don't know if we can.
Because?
It's election day. There was something at one meeting, a discussion about whether, maybe it was ALG, about whether we could meet.
We have met on election day in the past.
So that sounds great. Let's do that.
That said, we probably can't meet in,
Town hall.
No.
we're probably not gonna be
No,
able to
no.
meet in town hall.
Yeah. Why are we here tonight? I mean,
Because
what's
they are using the early voter registration in room 204, so we can't do
wrong?
that.
So the same is in for 2 weeks.
Yep.
So hopefully we'll be able to meet here again on the 3rd. If that's okay, that's
If anybody's listening.
TV.
But I do have an objection about the sound quality, internal sound quality here.
Okay.
For us old guys, are
Where?
Who?
Say that again?
What?
Who are you calling old?
I do think this is more comfortable a meeting than the public safety building where it's really hard and
Yeah.
yeah,
it's really
Yes.
This is
awkward.
better than
I
this.
Agree.
think this is hard for people to get to.
but for the quiet talkers,
It is a little hard.
I mean, for public.
I'm happy to ask people to yell.
You can do that.
I propose that if anyone can be ready for next week,
I will not be at a meeting on the 24th,
I mean, not next week, yes,
25th.
the
25th. I'm out of town that week,
Yes, I will not be either. I'm out of town as well.
Isn't that when Minuteman is coming?
sadly.
And you said you would be
Man
here?
Man's on the
I'll be
25th.
coming. Yeah,
Bring it.
unfortunately,
How are you gonna,
yeah.
I'm gonna have
I'm
to
gonna-
submit my questions.
Bring it remotely.
he'll bring it from it?
You can still watch on TV wherever you are on the world.
Yep, fabulous, since downtown Cincinnati.
So what are you thinking, Mr. Chairman? March 3rd?
I'm thinking March 3rd.
Is that our voting day? That's our voting day.
That's what we all just
Yeah.
had a
Yeah.
discussion
Yeah.
about, how it's Super Tuesday.
I knew it was Super Tuesday. I can't remember.
I know,
Yeah,
I know
that's-
you're taking a
that's
nap,
where you
but
vote.
no.
No, I'm refreshed.
All right.
Will we be, sorry, will we be getting a more complete draft warrant by then? There's a number of,
Several times.
Several.
no, between now and next week.
There'll be an
Between
iteration
now and
every
the-
time.
Okay.
Constantly.
We'll get you whatever we have, the
Okay.
latest and greatest.
This is the earliest we've had a draft in years, so
So this
you
is-
can
this is
expect there'll be
improvement.
more,
This
but
is
it's
good.
good to have what we have already.
And I want to thank Steve for bringing this to the forefront and John Benson as well.
For some of these, we could do them next
When we
week.
had the meeting with the town manager to
Okay, yeah.
get this to us earlier. It's been a great show. Does anybody want to look over the,
For some of these, we could do them next meeting if people have their research done by then.
Yeah.
I don't wanna do another meeting until.
For some of these, we
whatever
could do them
that was.
right now.
Well, honestly, yes.
Not joking,
37 to 43.
pretty much.
you want to do what? 43
Well,
11?
no, we're not gonna do that tonight.
Yeah.
Wait, no,
It's not on the warrant.
No, I'm just
We're
saying.
not doing that tonight.
Well, the zoning ones, I presume we can, if someone can get their, if people can get their research done by next meeting, we can vote on them. I'm hoping to not be having a marathon voting meeting like we did last time.
Yeah, I hope so. That's why it's good we got them early.
Yes. I would like to capitalize that on, keep moving forward. Okay.
Okay. Does anybody want to look over the school budget that we have our handout from February 6th, which I was unable to make?
So I would like to address slides 10 through 13, 14, 10 through 14, if you don't, 15, if you don't mind me taking a couple of minutes.
Floor is yours.
Thank you. So slide 10 is what they showed at the town meeting, the special town meeting where we authorized the money to borrow. And even then, I think somebody who stood up and said, by the way, all these numbers are based on 3%, so let's revisit this one that gets a little closer. I'm moving on to slide 11. The bottom line is we look like we need to take out we need to get $75 million to build this building. Where things get interesting, and I have to get a quick education in municipal bonding, is starting on slide 12. So the way it works is there is a yearly coupon that has to be paid, and there is the actual honest to goodness interest rate that is the reality when it's all said and done. And the delta between the two of them is called the premium.
Correct.
And the premium gets paid back to the person taking out the bond. And there's two ways of doing this. You can either take out a bond for your full face value and pocket the premium when you're done, or you can take a good well-educated swag at what the premium is going to be and reduce the amount that you actually borrow. Because while you're only borrowing $69 million or 68.8 or whatever the number is going to be at the end of it all, you actually get $75 million. Whereas by taking out 68, you don't have leftover money at the end of it all. And you have and the actual lowest interest rate is still the same. It comes out in the wash. So that's a quick explanation of 12. On to slide 13. This is the difference between option 1 is taking the bonding the full face amount and waiting to pocket the premium at a later time. Option 2 is reducing to 69.8. Sorry, I said 68.8. Reducing to 69.8 the face value of the bond. You take the face value of the bond plus the premium that you get. That gets us to the $75 million that we need, but it is a lower amount of money that we will end up having to pay per year because it's a smaller bond amount, and you don't have the money left over at the end. The school administration came to us saying that they were pretty much open-minded; they could go either way. There was a feeling in the room amongst and I am putting thoughts in other people's mind here, so by all means I could be wrong, and I apologize if I mischaracterize what somebody else had said, but there was a thought process being, wouldn't it be great to have the extra $7 million at the end of it all, $6 million at the end of it all, which we could then apply to something like Conan or something else. Both towns' representatives of the Finance Committee said that is not what you sought and got approval for. We do not recommend doing this at all. And oh, by the way, there's a potentially a problem where if we did take that money and applied it to something that was not debt override authorized, then there would potentially some legal ramifications to that as well. So the strong recommendation from the bonding subcommittee was to take option 2, which is the reinvestment of the reinsertion of the invested premium, and take out the smaller bond, which would have a good upside to the taxpayers in town, rather than us being at a projected $436 per year for the average single-family taxpayer. It's down to $405. Caveat, still with the assumption that we're taking this out at 3%, which drives me crazy. I mean, we are 2 weeks away from this, and rates are at 205. We should, anyway, moral of the story.
Jason, there's two numbers. So there's the 436 and the 452 are if we do 25 or 30 years, but when we go down to option 2, there's only one number. Is it 25 years or 30 years?
30 years.
Thank you.
30 years. I believe option 1 is still a 30-year.
It shows them both. The number in parentheses is the 25-year number.
Oh, okay. The 405 is the 30-year number, and the strong recommendation, and I see that there's a caveat even on this slide. It's the treasurer's authority. The school treasurer's authority. I don't get the feeling she's looking to go maverick and completely disagree with the entirety of the subcommittee that came to complete consensus on this. So, assuming she doesn't go maverick on that, then what we recommended was a 30-year with the net of premium option number 2. Now it looks like this was voted on.
Yep.
Which way did you guys vote?
We went option 2.
Good.
Yeah.
Excellent. So they went option 2, which is what we recommended as well. So excellent. No surprise there. No danger there. And while I will get killed by, I will get words said to me by members of the school administration on this one. This Acton 405 number in Boxborough 296, that is still with the assumption of a 3% interest rate. So if we can get that down to a lower number, so look to Dave for his input. Dave and
What's
Tom for his
3%
input.
based on?
What's that?
What was it?
Conservative figure.
So we've done it all at so far. The
3%.
fire station, the school, everything.
3% is what we've been doing it on for a year after we yelled at them and they came down from 5, which was the original number 2 years ago. Okay, so 405 is a whole lot better number than the 452. I believe, was it 450?
Yeah.
The 452 that we had sorry, yeah, the potentially even 509. The 452 number that was presented at town meeting, 405 is much better. And while I definitely do not wish anyone ill about coronavirus, the 30 basis points ran out of the market in 3 days because of coronavirus. So let's hurry up and get to February 27th, which is when we anticipate on or around February 27th we will actually take out the bond, and we expect to have our money in hand 2 weeks later.
Well, won't this part of the budget be set once we've issued the bond and we know what the rate is?
Yes, this will be set pretty much in stone the first week of March,
So these numbers will go nowhere but down.
unless something terrible happens to interest rates in the next 2 weeks.
Yep.
Okay.
Does that make sense to everybody? Because I had to get a lesson in coupon and premium as well.
I don't understand it that well, but
Can I ask a silly question? Who shops the bond?
So it is being handled by an outside firm that the school district has contracted with called Hilltop Securities. So Hilltop is shopping the bond.
And then who vets that?
So we have bond counsel that I think is, I don't know if that's independent of Hilltop or brought in through Hilltop, but
Should be independent.
Hopefully
well,
independent.
yeah, probably independent. But it looks like apparently my understanding is that whatever, there's going to be 8 or 9 different bids or more, potentially more, where the only one that we're not obligated to take any of them, but chances are we're going to take whatever has the lowest effective interest rate over the life of the total bond issuance.
Thank you.
any other discussion on the school's budget?
May I ask the representative from the school committee a question?
May I ask a question?
Dan, I tried to pull up the packet for Thursday, but I don't have a laptop. I only have my phone. What did the agreement with the teachers union come to?
6.5% increase over 3 years.
How is that broken out year over year?
2.5, 2.5, 2.5.
Over and above steps and lanes and supermax.
Over and above steps, lanes, and supermax.
Thank you.
So it was, what was it, 2.5?
1.5, 2.5.
1.5.
Sorry.
Committee reports. Actually, we have minutes. We have minutes first. Let's do the minutes, and then we'll do the committee reports. The new guy can give us his background information, so we know what's going on.
Did we get the 26 Yonah planner yet? Did we?
Last meeting.
I missed the last meeting. Of course.
Don't ask a question.
I asked if we got it. I didn't say I had a problem with it. I just asked if we
Let's
got
look
it.
over the January 14th minutes.
Mr. Chairman, I move we approve the minutes of January 14th.
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained?
Here.
You can still vote for minutes even though you weren't here at the meeting.
Yeah, but we still.
Have it.
I know.
I vote against them.
The local curmudgeon.
That's why we're on the committee.
Committee,
You know your role.
committee reports. Start with Tom.
Pass.
Jason.
I basically already gave the subcommittee
Steve.
report.
Health Insurance Trust met last week. We really didn't have a discussion that had much of a financial impact. We're going to try to get rates out as early as possible for the next fiscal year, but that depends a lot on how the data is trending and whether we feel we can accurately predict how the rates are going to be. There was one significant thing Peter Berry said since he's not running for re-election, that John Benson's going to take his place in the Health Insurance Trust.
Way to go, Mr. Pence.
Congratulations.
Sahana. Mike?
Just briefly that we've been in contact with Minuteman Superintendent Dr. Buquillan, and he will be sending, he is personally not available for our next meeting. He'll be doing the same thing for the stove in town. But
we're a bigger town than Stowe.
But Bob Gerard, who is the finance director, will be here to explain.
Okay, that's good. Is Pam Norse gonna come too as well?
I haven't heard a confirmation from her, but she was invited.
So who is it? Is what's his name?
Bob Gerard, PhD. So it's Dr. Gerard. And maybe Kevin Mahoney too.
Do you not have an update for your committee?
Yeah.
You do?
Christie.
Kelly's Corner is hoping to now say by the end of February to have the review appraisals done, so we will actually know what the cost is for the proposed acquisition. They are hoping to come see us on March 3rd if we have a meeting that day, so it's good that we have a meeting that day, since they need until the end of the month, I think, to get all the numbers in.
So schedule them and
We'll
let me know if
schedule
they can do it, so that we can add them to the agenda.
I think it's Mass DOT. Someone in the process moved the construction date up to October 21st. It was supposed to initially be that spring. So they're talking about putting the bid out for advertising that April of 21. And I don't remember the rest of the order. After that, we're looking at approximately 2 years of construction. One wonderful thing that has happened in this process is they've worked with the Acton Water District, who are planning on replacing the lines, the pipes in there, in the 5 years after the project, and they're moving that up so it can be while all these roads are open anyhow. So we'll have less
Should bury the lines while they're there.
insanity.
That will end up saving money.
Now, the project as it stands, the 1.3 million, does not include pedestrian lighting. That's the lights along the sidewalks, so people can enjoy walking around and see where they're going. That currently is estimated at 900 billion, no.
Ooh.
Yeah.
I object.
How much? 90?
$900,000.
Yes. You wanna make it
Under $1 million.
You want him to look, Jason would appreciate.
So that's if it's 100% lit. We can decide on a lower level than that. There are current discussions about what to do. Whatever the decision is, that needs to be voted on by October 2020. So there's going to be a look at having a special town meeting for that.
Ms. Russell.
We've covered all the important details from the school committee.
Dave.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that after Al's update, we allow the new member Adam to make a motion to adjourn.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? We can tell you, you guys
Note that.
So just,
after you give us your background.
so I was at the select board meeting last week. Just a couple of quick points. They did approve a
Select
new
meeting, we haven't changed the name yet.
the Board of Selectmen meeting last week, Monday. They approved a new utility pole in the town hall parking lot for electric vehicle charging station, with the anticipation of preparation for more municipal vehicles that are electric. The state is going to be granting.
Is that in the lower lot?
I believe so.
I have some more information from the town manager on that.
The state's going to be granting $12,500, so there's going to be no out-of-pocket costs to the town beyond the DPW supervision. Mass DOT let us know that they're in the beginning process stages to plan a signal light where Acton Medical is located. That's to start after the Kelly's Corner project is complete. It's a long process, more to come on that. And the last thing to note is that the sewer privilege fee went up. That was approved. Went from $12,500 paid up front to $30,000 per SBU.
So this applies to Powder Mill.
Pardon?
John,
it
is this
applies.
for Powder Mill?
This won't apply to Powder Mill.
Okay.
It'll to anyone else.
Okay.
I made my suggestion to the town manager that we don't have a phone pole, but we have as Jason would say, is put it underground. Because we have a phone pole now we gotta maintain. whatever form they are, if it's metal or if it's wood, eventually it has to be replaced. That means that the town's gonna be liable for that later on down the line. I suggested we put it underground, it's aesthetically better looking that way too. I guess I didn't win that argument. Even if we would delay it, I said it's better off underground if we had to put some out of pocket on that. Just felt aesthetically it looked one. My 2 cents. Mr. Nolde, would you like to introduce yourself to the committee?
Sure. My name's Adam Nolde. Live at 13 Broadview. My family and I moved here in 2016. We have 2 boys in the school district. We moved from Connecticut. We grew up in Colorado. I'm a former commodities trader from New York City and operated my own trading company for approximately 10 years in Connecticut as well. Have worked as operations manager and other various capacities like that, and have done a lot of business consulting. And I'm looking forward to serving the town.
Welcome aboard.
Thank you.
So now your first order of businesses?
No, hold it.
Sorry.
For you.
Yes, Mr. Benson.
Yeah, okay, so, as of 7:30 this evening, the field for the town elections has been set, sent back, employees their cell phones. The open will be in the Board of Selectmen, 4 candidates, 2 positions.
Must have gone into
Joe
spam again.
Gardner seeking re-election. Joan Gardner seeking re-election. A woman named Beverly Cornell, Jim Snyder Grant, and Tara Fredericks. The other on the school side, it's 3 candidates for 3 slots: Amy Krishna Murphy, Yabin Wang, and Kyra Wilson Cook. The other piece I wanted to update you on is the select board met last Thursday at 5:30, and we approved the appointment of Natasha Tiswell, who's an attorney at the international law firm of Hogan and Lovells, to serve as our independent investigator surrounding the incidents at the Miriam School on January 7th, 8th, and 9th. Ms. Tidwell is an Afro-American woman. She grew up in a public housing project in Cambridge. She's a graduate of UMass Boston. She joined the Cambridge Police Force. She was the first woman to achieve the rank of lieutenant. Her work was mostly in internal affairs, where she investigated complaints of police misconduct and excessive force. While on the force, she attended New England Law School at night, got a very practical education. She did not have Alan Dershowitz as our criminal law professor. Her first job out of law school was with the honors program in the Justice Department in Washington. That's a very prestigious appointment. And she was in the group that oversaw the restructuring of the police department in Ferguson, Missouri. She came back to Boston. She's done some teaching at New England Law School, and has been involved in has been retained to do a number of various types of investigatory work in Massachusetts, including the matter with the former Massachusetts Senate president. So as a member of a big law outfit, it's going to be a very pricey assignment, and it will probably cost us about $75,000. It was very important to us that we had the right person to do it, who had the background in this type of investigation, and was someone who would have credibility throughout, our Acton community, including, the Acton Police Department. So we're very encouraged, and Peter Barry is charged with finalizing the retainer agreement with Ms. Tiswell and her law firm.
So do we have an idea for how long until we see a report?
It'll be about 60 days from the time she starts. Next week, she will be spending school vacation week in California with her son.
So my
It'll start
understanding-
after that.
My understanding is that the schools are doing their own study.
That's correct.
That'll probably be back plenty before the 60 days.
We'll see.
Okay.
These things always take longer than you tend to, than is advertised, because it's complex.
Okay. Thank you.
Not really, no.
I move that we adjourn the meeting for this evening.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
We're adjourned.
Did you know?